Okay, we're going to open this hearing. This is a hearing of the Board of Supervisors of East Brandywine Township on the application for conditional use approval of 3 Creeks LLC. The 3 supervisors are here this evening to hear the evidence. It's a request for conditional use approval in accordance with Section 399.27.C2 of the East Brandywine Township Code to use and develop a property located at 2069 Bondsville Road, Chester County UPI number 30-5-128 as a traditional neighborhood development. I'm Tom Esty, I'm the Township Solicitor, and I'm representing the Board of Supervisors in this hearing. The property is located in the R2 Residential Zoning District and the TND-2 Overlay Zoning District. I see here this evening Mr. Jason Winters, who I presume you're representing the applicant.
Yes, I'm here on behalf of the applicant. Ms. Dunn.
You have to speak up some, please.
I'm here on behalf of the applicant as well as Ms. Dunn.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Yes,
Could-
Lindsay
could
Dunn.
you just state your full name, Ms. Dunn?
Yes, Lindsay Dunn, McElroy Harvey, on behalf of the applicant.
Very good, thank you. And Mr. Foley, you're here on behalf of the township?
Yes, on behalf of the Township Planning Commission and Zoning Administration.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I see quite a few people here in the audience. I don't know whether, I presume you're interested somehow in this application. There is the opportunity to request party status and become a party to the hearing. If you received a notice in the mail from me notifying you personally of this hearing, then you probably have standing to become a party. You do not need to be a party to make statements about the application, which will come somewhat later in the process. The primary reason for becoming a party is if you were unhappy with the decision of the board, you would be able to appeal that decision to the Court of Common Pleas of Chester County. You would also want to be a party if you want to present evidence in the hearing by sworn testimony or documents. That being said, is there anyone in the audience that would like to request party status? If so, would you state your name and address, please? Let the record show that no one requested party status. I just want to briefly explain the procedure. This is a formal hearing, so it's important that only one person speak at a time. We have Ms. Guy here, who is the stenographer, and she's taking down everything that everybody says. So 2 people cannot speak at the same time. The applicant will have the opportunity to present evidence on the application in support of its application. I anticipate the applicant will present witnesses who will be sworn in and present documents in support of the application. Initially, Mr. Foley will have the opportunity to cross-examine those witnesses, and in the event the Board of Supervisors has any questions about the witness's testimony, they have the opportunity to ask questions. When the applicant is finished its case, which I don't anticipate will happen this evening, it may, Mr. Foley will then have the opportunity to present any evidence he would like to present on behalf of the township and the Planning Commission. So as I said earlier, it is important that if anyone wants to make a statement, they speak into the microphone and speak loudly and clearly so the board can hear you and so Ms. Guy can hear you. We opened this hearing on several occasions previously and continued it on the record to this evening. However, because the application was, I would say, substantially amended by the presentation of a plan that was not originally submitted, the township re-advertised the hearing and also re-notified all the persons who were notified the first time by mail of the time and place of the hearing. So previously there were 9 exhibits that were marked board exhibits, which were admitted into the record. Tonight there are several additional exhibits, Exhibit B10 is approved for publication in the Daily Local News on February 3rd, 2025, and February 10, 2025, of notice of this conditional use hearing. Exhibit B11 is verification of mailing notice of the conditional use hearing to adjacent property owners dated January 30th, 2025, and a list of the property owners who received notice of the hearing. B12 is a review letter signed by Nathan M. Klein, P.E., Pannoni, Township Engineer, dated January 30th, 2025. B13 is East Brandywine Township Planning Commission draft minutes of the commission meeting on February 5th, 2025. B14 is a copy of an electronic mail exchange between Jason R. Winters and myself dated March 4th, 2024, confirming Mr. Winters' authority to represent the applicant and waiving certain time requirements applicable to conditional use hearings. Unless there are any questions from anyone or comments, I think we're ready to proceed.
A time limit?
Oh, I'm sorry. The board has decided that we're going to go to approximately 8:30 this evening. At that time, we will continue the hearing to a date certain to finish up, hopefully. It's now 7:13 p.m. If we're in the middle of a witness or something like that, we'll go beyond 8:30 to finish up that witness if possible. All the witnesses will be sworn in by Ms. Guy before they testify.
Mr.
I'm
Esty,
sorry.
as an administrative matter, B13, the Planning Commission meeting minutes from February, I don't believe we've seen. If you have an extra copy?
I gave
Do we have
copies
an
of the exhibits to Mr. Winters.
Oh, thank you. Can
And-
you just take a moment to review that?
Yeah, they are draft minutes. They have not been approved yet by the Planning Commission, which would presumably be done at their March meeting. So we'll go off the record for a moment to allow
Thank
review of the minutes.
Ready to proceed?
As you may. Thank you.
For the first witness, I would call Jason Winters.
Yes.
Is it acceptable for the board for the witness to remain at the table?
It is, as long as he keeps his voice up, please.
No, I can speak.
I usually
louder.
start out with a lower voice.
Thank you. Mr. Winters, can you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Jason Ross Winters. Address is 750 Little Washington Road, Downingtown, PA, 19335.
And do you have any affiliation with an entity named Three Creeks LLC?
Yes.
And pursuant to Township Exhibit B14, which I can show you quickly, is this an authorization provided by Three Creeks LLC and the Township Solicitor authorizing your appearance as agent here for them this evening?
Yes, it is.
Does Three Creeks LLC own any real property in East Brandywine Township?
Yes.
And can you state that address for the record, please?
Yes, they are the owners of 2069 Bondsville Road, Downingtown, PA, 19335, which is the subject of this hearing.
Is the board in possession of the exhibits? No?
We do not have the applicant exhibits or any other exhibits.
No, I prefer to just hand them all up. At once? Thanks, Luke. That is, do you have more than one?
I have this one.
No.
Thank you.
Luke, there's one more. Oh, or Mr. Fallon.
One of us, they could share one.
Oh, no.
Turning to what has been pre-marked as applicant's Exhibit 2, do you recognize that document?
Yes, I do.
And what is it?
It is the amended application that was submitted to the township on December 19th, 2024.
Prior to submitting the amended application, there was a previous application submitted what date, if you recall?
September 9, I don't want to recall, it's right here. September 18th, 2023.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. I think Mr. Winters may have stated at a previous hearing, but I just want to confirm that the applicant is requesting approval of the amended application, which you just identified.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can you put the microphone in the middle, the one with the green light? Two of you. I don't think the other
Can you
one's
hear?
working.
Is that?
Okay, then you're just all spoken.
Today.
But while we're on that topic, some of the original application is still part of the application, is it not? For
Yes.
example, the application form itself is part of the original. So it's the combination of the two. I think the cover letter nicely summarized which items are being substituted for the original application.
Right, and the record should reflect that what's marked as Exhibit 2 is only the cover letter and not the enclosures that are identified.
Correct. Between September 18th of 2023, which was the date of the submission of the initial application, and the submission of the amended application in December of 2024, what, if any, interactions and dialogue did you experience with the township with respect to the application?
When we had the application reviewed by the planning commission, the original application, they had made their comments, and we went back with our consultants and tried to accommodate their requests to try to see if we could work with the township. And that's where we are with the amended application.
And when you say township consultants, whom specifically are you speaking of?
As far as
Township consultants?
meeting with them,
Yes,
we did not meet with any township consultants outside of the planning commission meeting.
Planning Commission. Would that include Pannoni and Associates?
Yes.
Okay. A4, just for identification, is a copy of the deed, correct, for the property?
Yes, it is.
And do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
Now, turning to A5, which is an aerial portrayal of the property that is taken from the Chester County GIS Chesco Views website, correct?
Yes.
Identifying this as parcel number 30-5-128, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
3 acres, right?
Yes, that is correct.
And just for acknowledgement, this is on Bondsville Road and also meets it at the confluence with East Reesville Road, correct?
Yes, correct.
Are you aware of any plans for the property contained within the township's comprehensive plan or otherwise?
Yes.
And when I say plans for the property, I mean plans for the property as outlaid by the township.
Yes, the property has been designated for future reservation for a public road. It's included in their 2003 traffic impact ordinance.
If you know, does that contemplate a total condemnation?
It would, yes, to handle the stormwater management and the setbacks.
Have you ever received a letter of condemnation from the township?
No, we only received a letter from the township that expressed our interest in purchasing the property.
And is that included within the exhibits that we have here this evening?
Yes, that's the exhibit. A30.
Turning to A30, which is a piece of correspondence addressed to you dated April 10th, 2019, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Well, just for the record, it's addressed to John R. Winters, who I think is Mr. Winters' father.
Oh,
I'm
Is
not
that-
sure.
is that- is that an accurate clarification?
Yes, it is.
okay.
I got confused with the others.
And that would track with the deed at A4. At the time, the property was owned by your
Yes,
father, at least in part,
and the estate.
and the estate of Betty Jo Thompson, correct?
Yes, this property has been in our family since 1998. This property has been in the Winters family since 1998.
If you know, was there any further action taken between the then title owner of the property and the township following the April 10th, 2019 letter at Exhibit 30?
Yes, the township drafted agreement of sale and contacted the realtor.
And at the time, the property was being actively marketed by the then title owner, is that accurate?
Yes,
And what, if anything, came of those negotiations or that proposed agreement of sale?
their offer was rejected because the property was already under contract.
And with whom was it under contract? The current title owner?
No, same family, but different company. It was J&J Partnership.
And eventually, the property was sold, according to A4, in 2023, correct?
Yes,
After that transfer, are you aware of any further communications from the township to the current title owner of the property?
no,
Are you aware whether or not the township ever procured an appraisal for the property in pursuance of the April 10th, 2019 correspondence?
no, I believe they did not.
And if they did, was it ever shared with the then title owner, to your knowledge?
Yes, and there has not been.
Yes, you're aware that there has not been an appraisal shared by the township since 2019.
Yes, correct.
Now, as far as you know, did the April 10th, 2019 letter at Exhibit A30 indicate the township's intended purpose for the property?
Yes, it is. Yes, it does.
And what would that be, from your understanding?
It would be for the proposed East Reesville Road extension.
And did the township ever provide a depiction or a sketch plan to you of what that would look like?
Not other than just how it was depicted on their official map.
Their comprehensive plan?
Yes.
And if we turn back to the aerial that is located at A5, just explaining specifically, perhaps from the point of Bondsville and East Reesville Road, what did that look like?
On the map, it looks like there's a roundabout that extends into the property, on the western border, and then it transverses across the property line, which is,
Do you recall how many lanes?
yes, 2.
Do you recall how many outlets?
No.
It's not an objection, but are we referring to a document that is readily, the comprehensive plan document.
Don't have the comprehensive plan. I would ask the board just to take quasi judicial notice of it. Oh, is it in here? Okay. I believe then,
A40, A40 to A42.
842.
Thank you.
So A40 is the, I would ask the board to take judicial notice of A40. Against objection, I would represent, depicts the 2009 Guthriesville Master Plan, Map 17, Guthriesville Village Concept, East Brandywine Township, Chester County, Pennsylvania. And the subject property
Apologies for the interruption.
The subject property is located somewhat in the lower right-hand quadrant of the map at 840, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And how is it indicated as a zoning designation, if you know?
It's designated as village commercial.
Turning to A41, I would also ask for judicial notice of the, what is designated as Exhibit A, Guthriesville Village Development Strategy Plan. And the date on this is a revision date of October 9th, 2012, and June 11th through June 27th, 2013. Excuse me, latest date, April 22nd, 2015. Have you ever seen this document before?
Yes, I have.
And can you, do you acknowledge where the property subject to this hearing is on this map?
Yes, it's in the middle of the page. You can see the circle roundabout with the proposed road.
Is that the roundabout to which you were referring earlier?
Yes, it is.
And is there a different designation for a zoning classification of the property on this map?
I'm concerned for purposes of the record that we're really not identifying the property that well.
Oh, certainly.
I mean, I know where it is, and I think the board knows where it is, but someone reading this record may not be able to.
Thank you. Fair point. In the middle of A41, there is a yellow circle with a green dot in the middle and several extensions coming from it. Do you see that?
Yes.
And indicating to the east and north or south of that, can you indicate for the record where the property is?
Yes, it'd be.
North is up.
Yeah, no, so it'd be south of.
Southeast,
I didn't know what you were saying.
southeast of the yellow circle in the middle of the map, correct?
Yes. Southeast is the proposed roundabout.
And do you notice on this particular map, there's a key that says wetlands mapped 2012, correct?
Yes.
And are there any wetlands mapped on the property as of this latest revision, April 22nd, 2015?
Only in the very southern portion of the property that's not proposed to be disturbed.
So now turning to what has been pre-marked as Exhibit A42. Have you ever seen that document before?
Yes, that is the 2022 official map.
And well, this is somewhat smaller and not as colorful as the two previous exhibits. For the record, can you indicate where the, okay, let me put it this way. There's a circle that looks like it's been taken, a radius of an intersection in the middle of the map, and it's blown up. That oval is blown up in the upper right-hand corner of this document, A42, correct?
Yes.
And does that indicate the intersection of East Reesville Road and Bondsville Road?
Yes, it does.
And if you're looking at the upper right-hand corner of Exhibit A42, can you please indicate for the record where the property is located?
The property is located, if you look at it, says Locks Farm for the townhome complex to the south. Right there at the K is directly on the parcel. And then the top of the parcel is kind of right there at that bold line that illustrates a road.
And does this A42 in the upper right-hand quadrant also indicates a shape similar to the yellow circle in A42, correct?
Yes.
With extensions largely similar to the ones depicted in A42, correct?
Yes.
And has that changed, in your opinion, between A42 in terms of the indication of that proposed road between the 2015 and the 2022 map?
Yes.
In what way?
The road now is more deep. The road on the 2022 map, Exhibit 42, the road along the northern portion of the property is actually shown in this map as going through our property, but on the older map, it showed transacting on the adjacent parcel to the north of this parcel.
And with respect to that extension, do you notice any different indication on the 2022 map with respect to wetlands or streams, separate and apart from what is indicated on the 2015 map?
Again, I think it would be helpful for the record to identify them by the exhibit numbers. I think you're asking the
Certainly,
witness
42.
if there's a difference.
This map does not include any wetlands depicted on it.
And when you say this map, are you referring to A42?
Yes.
And the key does indicate an item for streams, correct?
Yes.
I don't have any further questions for Mr. Winters
Thank you,
at this time.
thank you. Mr. Foley, any questions?
Thank you. Just picking up with that last question, the Exhibit A42 does show, I've got a blow-up in color for you. It does show the north-south stream running through the property, does it not?
Could you keep your voice up, Mr. Foley?
Sorry.
Everybody's fading away.
I believe it was, I was referring to wetlands is not on the 2022 map, but it's on the, but there are streams located on it, yes.
Thank you. You mentioned the zoning as depicted on previous maps, specifically on A40. The property was zoned as village commercial.
Yes.
Do you know when that changed?
That changed in 2012, when Apple Crosses Phase 5, that was originally approved for 11 estate homes in the adjacent parcel to the south of the subject parcel, was amended, and the TND-2 overlay was created to accommodate 96 townhomes next door. And in doing that, our property went from having a repairing corridor not apply to the village commercial to now applying to TND2.
But TND-2 is also what enables you to now apply for townhouse approval, is it not?
Yes, correct. It's just a different density.
Going back to the history of the township's interest in purchasing the property, did I understand that the reason the township's offer was not maybe even considered is that the property was already under contract for sale to J&J Partnership?
Yes.
And that was a different family partnership, but still your family?
Yes.
Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
I want to be respectful of your time, Mr. Esty, your time constraints, but my next witness would be, if I could please call Mr. John Kennedy, and maybe you can switch over.
If you don't mind, I would strongly prefer that we use the witness stand, if possible, because of the ability to project exhibits for everyone to see.
Oh, certainly. Well, certainly for Mr. Kennedy, yes. If he's familiar with the technology, do you feel comfortable with that?
I'm happy to assist. Pardon the interruption, Board, technical.
As long as you can sit down, I'm fine.
I think you can, and I think you can use the blinker, even if it will project up there.
Okay.
So before you do that, why don't you be sworn in, Mr. Kennedy? Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, right here. Great, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Kennedy. Could you please state your name and occupation for the record?
Yes, my name is John H. Kennedy. My address is 672 Main Street, Harleysville, Pennsylvania, and I'm a professional land planner.
And I'm going to just show
A
you,
professional what? I'm sorry.
oh, land planner.
Thank you.
A copy of what we have remarked as Exhibit A6. Do you recognize that document, sir?
Yes, that is a copy of my CD.
And that's a true and correct copy of your most recent CD.
Yes, it is.
And how long have you served as a land planner, sir?
I have practiced land planning for the last 45 years, the last 35 of which have been my own consulting.
And have you ever testified before boroughs or municipal boards within the counties of Pennsylvania?
Yes, I have numerous times.
And have you ever testified in court before?
Yes, I have.
I would offer Mr. Kennedy as an expert in land planning for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
No questions, no objection.
Thank you. He's so recognized.
Thank you.
Mr. Kennedy, we've been talking here about this property in East Brandywine Township. Could you advise the board and the record what your participation in this project has been?
Sure. I was retained to look at the property, look at the zoning and other pertinent planning documents, and then to sign a site plan for the property in accordance with the TND-2 zone.
And in preparation to prepare that plan, what materials did you review to ensure compliance?
In addition to visiting the property, I also reviewed the township's zoning ordinance, the township's subdivision land development ordinance, the 2022 comprehensive plan update, and then I also reviewed some older planning documents which related to master plan for Cousins.
And did you prepare a document titled Zoning Compliance Report that was included as an original addendum to the, as an addendum to the original conditional use plan?
Yes, I did.
And in terms of your review of the materials, is that all of that data indicated in this zoning compliance report?
Yes, this is. This is a summary, in essence, of the compliance with the existing TND-2 zoning.
In response to this zoning compliance report, did you ever receive a review from the township zoning officer indicating any sort of deficiencies?
We received a review from County fairly recently, dated January 30th, 2025.
But before that, the original application, Mr. Winters testified earlier, was submitted on September 18th of 2023. And this was, I believe you just testified, a component of that original conditional use application, correct?
That is correct. There was an additional, an earlier letter issued by County, but it is dated October 27th, 2023.
And that would be, for the board and the record, that is applicant's exhibit A19. And do you have a copy of that in front of you, sir? And there are several comments beginning at the bottom of page 1 of A19 that start zoning section 399, correct?
That is correct.
The first being a small portion of the southern end of the tract is located within the flood hazard district at 399-13, correct?
That is correct.
And did you have an indication response to that comment?
That is accurate. There's a small portion of the site within the FEMA floodplain.
And zoning comment number 2 indicates it appears that at least 2 water courses may be encroached, altered, or improved. Applicable PADEP permitting will be required, correct?
That is correct.
Now, in terms of the conditional use process, is it your understanding that PADEP permitting is required at this stage of a land development application and development?
My experience is now required because what comes
That's the limit.
And the zoning comment number 3 indicates that the parcel is located within the riparian corridor conservation district, correct?
That is correct.
And that the stream will be addressed for, your indication is that, is what, sir? What is your response to that comment?
Any type of stream management or any change in the stream, that would be handled in the land development process.
And did you have a concept for the elimination of the riparian corridor issue?
I did have a concept to move the riparian corridor from one of the drainage ways
Just to go off the record a minute. Jen, can you hear him?
We need to hear that answer because we didn't hear it the first time.
Could you please repeat the question?
Certainly. With respect to zoning comment number 3, indicating the location of the property within the riparian corridor conservation district at section 399-13.1, did you have a response or a solution for addressing that comment?
Yes, one of the drainage ways was.
I'm sorry, again, you're still speaking towards the back of the room.
Oh.
Could you please direct your voice to Ms. Guy?
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yes, I did have a solution to eliminate one of the potential riparian corridor areas on the drainage way, one of the drainage ways which does run north-south on the property.
And with respect to the next several comments also relate to the riparian corridor, some of which are technical in nature. And with respect to comment number 6, indicating that within the first 50 feet of any designated riparian corridor conservation district, it deals with vegetative conditions. Do you see that?
Yes.
And the
that's correct.
restoration of 50 feet of impacted riparian corridor, correct?
Correct.
And what was your response, or what would be your response with respect to that comment?
We have not encroached or altered the first 50 feet of any riparian corridor areas.
And would that also apply as your response to comment number 7?
Yes, that is correct.
And number 8, comment number 8 indicates that there are prohibited uses proposed within the parking lots, permanent structures, parking lots, amongst other restrictions in violation of what is indicated as section 399-13.1D, correct?
That is correct.
And was that an impetus for the creation of the amended plan eventually?
That was partially the purpose of that amended plan.
And did you address that comment in the amended plan?
We did.
Notably, part of section 399-13.1D, I don't know if you have it in front of you, sir. If you don't, I'm more than happy to share mine with you.
What was the exact number?
It's ordinance section 399.13, or excuse me, -13.1.D.
Yes, that's correct. The Riparian Corridor Conservation District, I do have that.
And if you're looking at that, D subsection 2, subsection C, indicates that motor and wheeled vehicle traffic in any area not designated to accommodate adequately the type and volume, correct?
Bear with me for a moment. Section D.
D2C.
Yes, that is correct.
In addition to D2D with parking lots, correct?
That is correct.
In your opinion, sir, is what is proposed by this plan, either the original or the amended, more or less intense than a traffic circle and extension road going through the property with respect to those two particular sections?
I would think that could you restate that? I want to make sure that I do understand the question.
Certainly. Earlier, we looked at 3 incantations of the township's comprehensive plan that encompass this property. And all 3 of them, the most recent one having been developed in 2022, excuse me, the first one does not, but the 2015 and the 2022 plans indicate a traffic roundabout, and in the 2022 at Exhibit A42 indicates an extension road going through the property extending from East Bondsville Road.
That is correct.
And in your opinion, as a land planner, would the applicant's proposed use or the traffic circle and extension road be more intense with respect to those requirements at 39913-1D?
I would think they would be about the same.
Okay. All right, are there any steep slopes with respect to that term's definition within the code, the township's code, present upon the property?
Not that I'm aware of. There may be some steep slopes at the very edge of the banks of the streams, especially the stream which parallels Bondsville Road.
And with respect to the provision of a wetlands examination and delineation for the property, is that something that you propose having be a provision at the land development portion of the process?
That is correct. That is typically done later on in the process.
Was there any open space or anticipated for the project as you devised it?
There is no formal common open space. There is green area, meaning areas that do not have any kind of structures on them.
Comment number 17 in the letter at A19 indicates the potential impact of 2 Class 2 historic resources in the vicinity of the project. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And did you confirm, sir, that those 2 Class 2 historic resources referenced in comment 17 are 300 feet or more from improvements depicted upon the project?
They are greater than 300 feet.
Was there any anticipation of connection to a township trail scheme?
Yes, there was, as we were preparing the plan, there was the opportunity for potential connections. I believe it was on the Guthriesville master plan. There are trail connections noted on that plan in the vicinity of the site.
And so after having received this letter, is it my understanding that you had some feedback from the Planning Commission?
That is correct. I attended the Planning Commission in November of 2023, and we did present the plan, and also there was a considerable discussion about the plan itself.
And substantive discussions that would relate to the conditional use process, or just more comprehensive discussions?
They were discussions that centered around the location of the, let me back up for a minute. There were discussions that primarily centered around accommodating the East Reesville Road extension as noted in the comprehensive plan.
And is there a way in which any legitimate variation of the plan as proposed, either in the original or the amended application, could also accommodate the East Reesville extension?
Yes, the amended plan did provide a right-of-way that could easily accommodate the East Reesville Road extension.
And so what, can you explain to the board what you did to amend the plan for resubmission that was eventually made in December of 2024?
Sure. Whoops.
Is that plan, the amended plan, marked as an applicant exhibit? It is part of one of the board exhibits, which was the amended application and the enclosures.
Why don't I put this in front of you, sir, so if you can project it to the board.
And which, is that an applicant's exhibit?
This is it, right? Yeah. Yes. This is located, the original plan for comparison is at A8, and the amended plan is at A9.
Thanks very much.
Okay. Does anybody want me to hold this up? You can track? Or is there any way I can sort of zoom in on that a little bit, Luke?
Yeah, it's real high tech. Just push the camera closer to the paper.
What you're showing on the screen is A9, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. That's very high tech.
Okay.
I'm spot on. There you go. Okay, what changes were made to what the board is now looking at on the screen and what is marked as A9 from the original plan?
There were a number of things that changed. First and foremost, we moved the right-of-way for the potential East Reesville extension to the northern boundary of the property. I'm indicating right here.
And the record reflect that the witness just indicated the 24-foot cartway, in parentheses, half street width.
That is correct, and that's contained within a 60-foot right-of-way, half of which is proposed to be on this site, so that would be a 30-foot portion of a right-of-way. That was one of the changes. One of the other significant changes, which was discussed at the Planning Commission, was to move the parking for the townhouse units. Originally, the townhouse units had what we would call front-loaded garages, or a garage that would be in the front of the house and would have direct access off of the street. One of the comments of the Planning Commission was that, especially in the Guthriesville area, they would prefer to have garages that were loaded in the rear so that they would not be visible from the street. So this functions to not only hide the parking, but it also helps to establish more of a finished streetscape on the front of the building, which for two buildings, that would be located on the, they would actually face the East Reesville Road extension. Another building which would then be parallel to Bondsville Road, would face Bondsville Road. They would also have rear-loaded or alley-loaded garages, so they would also not be as visible. There also was some additional parking, guest parking provided, and then also a common sort of gathering space, a small pocket park in the back.
And a provision for stormwater management areas?
Yes, there were a number of different locations for potential stormwater management.
Now, with respect to this A9 that we're looking at and the zoning criteria required by code for the applicable TND-2 overlay, does the proposed plan meet the maximum density requirements of the code?
Yes, it does, which would be 7 dwelling units per acre.
And at 3 acres, how many total units are proposed?
21 units.
And there, I see that on A9 it says minimum lot area, you indicated not applicable, correct?
That's correct.
And why is that?
These types of developments typically are done as planned unit developments, so quite often it is only the footprint of the home is conveyed, and so fee simple lots are usually not created for townhomes, in my experience.
The next criteria that you have indicated on here is the minimum lot width area. Is that consistent with the code requirements?
Yes, it is. That would be the width of an individual townhouse, and 18 feet is the minimum width, and these are 18 feet.
And then with respect to the yard setbacks, front, side, and rear, can you explain for the board and indicate upon the projection of A9 which you considered to be the front yard and how that was measured and the compliance, please?
Sure. In essence, because individual lots are not created, the parcel itself is the individual lot. So the front yard, which is required to be between 5 and 12 feet, we are showing 12 feet. That would be in this area here, right on Bondsville Road. The side yard would be on the southern property. The rear yard would be the 35 feet would be the eastern property line. And then we are proposing a new road, so that is also a front yard on the northern line of the property line.
And by that, you indicate there is, right below the indication of the 24-foot cartway, slightly down into the left, it says 12 feet FY. That means 12 feet front yard for that portion as well, correct?
That is correct.
Is there an issue with meeting the minimum distance between buildings in this case for purposes of the code requirements?
No, there is not.
Can you explain to the board why it says required allowed 30 feet, but proposed not applicable?
We have, we actually have greater than 30 feet proposed at the closest point between two buildings. We have 32 feet.
So NA indicates that we've exceeded the minimum distance requirement, correct?
We have exceeded it, yes, that's correct.
And with respect to the tract setback, is this consistent with the code requirement for that particular criteria?
Yes, it is, 10 feet.
And the height of the proposed improvements?
They would conform with the height requirement, which is 35 feet or 3 stories.
Now, with respect to the parking, the required parking is 1.5 spots per dwelling unit, and does that include driveway and garage space, if you recall?
The requirement is for 1.5. I actually do not recall whether the garage can count. However, we're providing 3 spaces and we are not counting the garage space. There would be 2 outdoor spaces off of the alleyway behind each unit. And then we have also added some additional guest parking so that we are virtually at double the amount of parking required. That was one of the other comments from the Planning Commission.
I was going to ask you, thank you. Did the planning commission indicate to you at that time how much parking they wanted to see, or just generally that they wanted to see more?
They just generally wanted to have some parking added for guests.
Now, are you familiar with the potential availability of public sewer to this property in general?
In general, yes. It is my understanding this has been included in the Act 537 plan for the township within the Guthriesville area.
And what as to the availability, the convenient availability of public water?
My understanding is public water is available within the area.
Now, as with respect to the units themselves, was there any consideration taken with respect to code requirements for the area, the footprint of these units?
I'm not quite sure that I understand the question.
Gross floor area.
We did actually calculate the gross floor area. I believe that is on the conditional use notes.
Is this plan created to be compliant with those requirements
It is.
as indicated in the code?
Yes, it is compliant.
Now, what if any consideration was taken with respect to the placement of the indicated SWM stormwater management facilities on the property?
Those were taken into, well, in order to locate them, I did consult with our engineer and we discussed what was the best location for the stormwater management facilities.
And so he will be able to speak more length to that, I would assume.
That's correct.
Okay. In your opinion as a land planner, sir, is this use proposed as indicated on A9 consistent with the surrounding neighborhoods and character of the area of East Brandywine Township?
Yes, we have townhouses are located immediately to the south of the property, where I'm indicating on this plan. It's also, as indicated in the township's planning documents, it's part of the Guthriesville village area, and it is stated in the Guthriesville plan that the township would desire more compact development patterns. Also that promoted pedestrian circulation and tried to downplay vehicular circulation.
Are you aware, sir, of whether or not this plan was submitted at any time to the County Planning Commission for Chester County?
Yes, it was submitted to Chester County Planning.
And for the board, there is a piece of correspondence that has been marked as Applicant's Exhibit A22.
Could we just clarify the record is what has been marked as A9 the exact same plan that was submitted to the Chester County Planning Commission?
They both were. Both sketch plans were submitted to the county, and they reviewed both of them concurrently.
Well,
If you look at page 3 of A22, the County Planning Commission actually inserts both images.
Okay, so the one that's inserted as an image is rather small. My question is, you're asking for conditional use approval of A9, correct?
Correct.
And I just want to make sure that what has been marked as A9 is precisely the same plan that was submitted to the Chester County Planning Commission. There are no revisions, no changes.
No, sir, yes, if you look at A22, which is the November 19th, 2024 letter from the County of Chester Planning Commission, page 3 of that correspondence, the first plan, which indicates detail from 2069 Bondsville Road, sketch plan number 1, is A9.
Well, I will direct your attention to one change that I see. And A9 has a notation that says drainage way to be piped. And I do not see that on Exhibit A22, sketch plan number 1.
Well, if it was not included in however they copied and pasted this, I can't represent that.
Well, so the answer is, it's not, A9 is not exactly the same as what was submitted to the Chester County Planning.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying A9 is not exactly what appears on page 3 of their response letter.
Well, how can you represent, so you're representing that the Chester County Planning Commission must not have copied it right? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I'm not trying to impugn anyone's character
I
on the
understand.
planning commission, but, you know, it looks like it was just taken as a screenshot, and if there was a field loss because of whatever PDF modification for a cut and paste, I can't speak to that, other than to say that I'm a moron myself when it comes to those things.
I don't think you're a moron at all, so I'm just observing what we have in paper here today at this hearing, and there are differences. But anyway, proceed.
And if you recall, sir, what was the feedback received from the County Planning Commission with respect to the amended plan?
The amended plan, which I will first comment, is exactly the same thing. In fact, while the note for some reason is not there, the pipe, which is drawn on the plan, is on that plan in their letter. That would be 2 parallel dashed lines. They did comment on both of the plans. The county characterized sketch number 1, which is A9, as being the better plan. The reasons they listed for this were several reasons. First and foremost, it was the fact that it would accommodate the extension of the East Reesville Road, and therefore it would align with the township's comprehensive plan and also with the Guthriesville master plan. They also commented positively on the fact that the parking had been moved to the rear and would be hidden from view from the street. Also the fact that entrances were placed prominently on the streets, so this would create more of an aesthetically pleasing streetscape, and would also therefore include things such as street trees and street lamps, and et cetera.
In addition, did the Planning Commission, the County Planning Commission indicate approval of the pocket parking provision in the revised plan?
Yes, they also did make a positive comment about the gathering area that we had placed in the center of the plan.
And also to the ability of the revised plan to integrate and facilitate better vehicular movement with a contiguous property that is referred to, I believe, as Locks Farm Lane, correct? I believe that's in there.
Yes, that was in their comments.
Did the County Planning Commission raise any concerns regarding the proposed improvements upon the plan with respect to location near any creeks, culverts, or streams?
I don't recall any concerns.
Now, following the receipt of this review from the County Planning Commission, did you appear before the Township's Planning Commission recently after the submission of the revised conditional use application plan?
No, I did not.
You did not. Are you aware of whether or not the application did go before the Planning Commission?
Yes, it's my understanding it did, I believe February 5th.
Oh, and you may have said this already, sir, but just for the record, I wanted to nail this down. Did the County Planning Commission indicate that the harmony of the revised plan at A9 with what they refer to as the Suburban Landscapes Design Guide for the county?
Yes, that is evaluating the plan with respect to the county's comprehensive plan, which is called landscapes.
So in the opinion of the County Planning Commission, this was consistent both with the county comprehensive land plan and as far as they could determine, also with the township's Guthrie'sville area, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Incidentally, sir, do you know whether or not the extension of East Reeseville Road, is East Reeseville Road a township road or a PennDOT road?
I actually do not know.
Can I go off the record for just one moment?
Sure.
Thank you. Sir, I'm going to ask you to look at a document titled, and for the board and the record, this is Applicant's A10, Manual of Written and Graphic Design Guidelines. Do you have that?
Yes, I do.
And did you prepare this document, sir?
Yes, I did.
Can you please just walk the board through this for the record as to its purpose and its substance?
Sure. This is a document. Face this way. This is a document that is required under the specific conditional use requirements within the R2 TND-2 zoning district. And this is it's a manual of written and graphic design standards, which are recommended for properties within the Guthrie'sville area. And it basically just provides some very general guidelines regarding the use, which we are asking. Just to real quickly go down the table of contents, the topics that are covered are the overall form of the property and the design, the fact that we are proposing a very compact development pattern, which is one of the things that is encouraged in the Guthrie'sville area. Also connectivity of access ways and typical sections of access ways, meaning the streets. We provided sections of the proposed East Reeseville Road extension and then also the alleyways. How parking would be located and the types of parking, which we also state should be sort of hidden or tucked in behind or to the side of buildings, as opposed to being prominently on the street. Building locations, specifically, the authors of the plan would like to see buildings moved closer to the street. It helps create what many planners call the street wall, in terms of the way the buildings are situated on the street, and also building height and proportion, which we are within those parameters, the required height. There's also other topics include pedestrian circulation and pedestrian amenities. That would be indicating where sidewalks, crosswalks could be located. Also, how the sidewalks are actually situated on the street. The fact that we do have a grass verge separating the cartway from the actual sidewalk itself, which forms a planted strip. Other topics also include street trees and other landscape elements, which would, street trees obviously would be along the streets adjacent to the sidewalks. And then also the topic of street lights and signage are also included, as well as maintenance of improvements, which in a community such as this would be an HOA that would provide maintenance for common elements. And then also a comment on the Guthriesville Village Development Strategy Plan.
And with respect to what you indicated as item number 9 on page 7 of A10, pedestrian amenities, that indicates a proposal of a community mailbox unit near the parking portion of A9, is that correct?
That's correct. That would be a location where residents could gather. It would also be a location where people could stop and collect their mail. Although I will add that mailbox locations typically are also and must be approved by the U.S. Postal Service.
Now, with respect to number 15, the Village Development Strategy Plan discusses what you referred to earlier as the provision of a right-of-way to the township for the construction and implementation of the East Breesville Road extension, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And there's been no indication or request from the township. At this point, has there been any discussion from the Planning Commission, as far as you know, or the township with respect to the engineered design of that road, or just the provision of a right-of-way?
No, when we were at the Planning Commission, there was no specific mention of the size or dimensions of the roadway. We've accommodated what potentially could be a 60-foot right-of-way, which in my experience should be significant enough to be able to handle the traffic. However, that still would need to be vetted and explored in land development.
And if East Breesville Road is, as I believe, a PennDOT road, also vetted by PennDOT, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And, sir, are you familiar with the distinction between the terms legal right-of-way and ultimate right-of-way?
Yes.
Was there any discussion in the preparation of A9 regarding those two things? And perhaps the township's plans to acquire property on the northern boundary of this property to widen that road?
There was no discussion of exact dimensions.
Okay, 24 feet was deemed appropriate in your discussions?
24 feet, in my experience, is certainly adequate to handle two-way traffic on a temporary basis. The intention would be that that would constitute half of the width of the road.
Thank you, sir. Just a couple more things to run through with you, and I'm going to have the board turn to what's been pre-marked as Exhibit A11, which I will represent to you, sir, is a USGS map dated 11/1/2023. And it has your Kennedy and Associates emblem at the bottom right-hand corner, just indicating the size of the subject property with respect to the USGS map, correct?
That's correct. This is taken from the Wagon Town Quadrangle USGS mapping.
And the only portion of the property that is located within FEMA's 100-year floodplain is the lower left-hand corner, in other words, the southwest corner of the property, correct?
That is correct.
And is there any development proposed in the area of that floodplain inclusion?
No, there is no development proposed there at all.
Now, sir, for the record, what is the provision of the information that is fed into the USGS map? From what source does it derive?
I'm not exactly sure what sources they use to determine what they place on their maps.
Is it a government provided resource?
Yes, it is government provided resource.
And is in this Exhibit A11, is there any indication on this government map of water courses running through the property?
There is one water course that is shown on the property. It is a stream that is parallel to Bondsville Road, and it is on the western boundary of the property.
And is there any development proposed that would interfere with that water course?
There's no development proposed that would interfere with the water course.
At applicant's exhibit A12, I have what's indicated as a historic resource map. Do you have that?
Yes, I do.
And what is from what source did you acquire this historic resource map distances?
This was taking the historic resource map from the township and then looking at an actual aerial and roughly measuring where these different elements were with respect to the site.
And under the ordinance, I believe we discussed earlier, the minimum distance from an identified historic resource is 300 feet, correct?
That's correct.
And this demonstrates that any historic resource of concern is at the very least 484 feet from the property, correct?
That is also correct, yes.
Now, when you took these measurements, did you measure them from the property boundary lines or from the actual edge of the closest proposed developed improvement?
They're measured from the boundary of the property.
From the boundary of the property, thank you. All right, turning to A13, sir, I have a public realm plan and landscape concept dated 12/4/2023. Do you have that in front of you?
Yes, I do.
And what is the significance of this landscape concept?
This is also another requirement under the TND-2 standards. This is to show what some of the public areas or the public realm would look like. And in addition, we're indicating where some conceptual landscaping would be. So, for instance, we are showing street trees along Bondsville Road in front of the buildings. We're also showing some street trees along the East Reeseville Road extension. We would be adding some additional landscaping, some buffering to some of the units that are closest to the East Reeseville extension, and also some buffering on the eastern side of the property. We would add some buffering if needed along the southern boundary. There are some areas of existing vegetation, but typically the process would be to evaluate that in land development and determine whether supplemental landscaping would be required.
And A14, sir, if you've seen it, is a letter dated May 21st, 2019 to Jason R. Winters at J&J Partnership, which was, I believe, an equitable owner of the property on that date, and it is a will serve aqua letter. Have you seen that?
Yes, I have.
A15 is a document titled Table 5-2, Alternate A, Public Sewer ATP. Can you please explain for the board and the record the significance of this exhibit?
Yes, this is an excerpt from the Township's 537 plan, which is a plan that governs how sewerage is handled in the Township. And what this is indicating is public sewer connections and also permitted capacities. It then goes and lists a number of different tracts in the Township, which are included in the permitted capacity category.
And for purposes of this application, is it your understanding that the property we're discussing this evening is identified on this document as the Winters tract?
That is correct, and it also identifies that there is capacity for 21 units to accommodate the development of the tract.
And finally, sir, I have at Exhibit A16 an email dated February 20th, 2025, so today, from a Vincent D'Amico, Fire Chief of East Brandywine Fire Company. I'm not sure if you've had an opportunity to look at that. Have you seen this yet, sir?
I have seen it, yes.
Okay. And in this email, is it a fair characterization that the fire chief of the township acknowledges that the proposed turning radius on the amended plans are acceptable to the fire company?
That is correct. That is what's stated in the email.
Are you almost finished, Ms. Dunn?
I am. I think I have a couple of just very basic things.
We're going to take a quick break then, of less than 5 minutes, and then we're going to finish up for the evening.
I will be less than 5 minutes, sir, I promise.
Thank you. Okay, we can go back on the record now. Thank you.
Back on the record with Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy, you indicated earlier that you reviewed the township ordinance and code in preparation for your participation in the preparation of these plans. In your opinion, is the proposed use permitted by Township Code Section 399-27C2?
Yes, it is.
And in your opinion, is the site within the designated village area?
It is within the designated Guthriesville Village area.
And would it qualify, in your opinion, as a compact development
Yes.
with a walkable design?
Yes, we have tried to encourage pedestrian walkability.
You already testified that it was your opinion that the proposed use is consistent with the neighboring uses in the community and the area?
That's correct.
And if you know, would this proposed use be developed in one phase or in multiple phases?
In my experience, a development of this size would most likely be one phase.
One phase?
Correct.
The capacity of the road system has been found, as we believe we demonstrated by the fire chief, to be adequate for emergency services, and also the 24-foot cartway provided as the East Reesville Road extension is consistent with your discussions with the planning commission, correct?
That's correct.
In your opinion, does the design of the plan and the location of the proposed improvements, is that consistent with an environmentally sensitive approach to the existing environmental features of the property?
Yes, we've tried to cause as little disturbance as possible to both water features and also in terms of grading.
And I believe you testified earlier, but if you didn't, I want to make sure it's on the record that you don't anticipate encroaching within the 50-foot setback of the riparian corridor, correct?
The first 50 foot, that is correct.
First 50 feet. And is there an acceptable setback from Bondsville Road for the proposed improvements of this use?
Yes, there is.
And did you take into account when you were developing the plan and the layout, the existing topography of the plan, of the property?
We did, yes.
We already established that it would not impact upon any nearby historic resources, correct?
That's correct.
And to your knowledge, at the level of detail that the plan now exists at A9, is it consistent with what you know to be state and local stormwater regulations?
Yes, we would have to address all of those at land development.
I have no further questions for Mr. Kennedy.
Okay, thank you. It's now 8:45 PM. We're going to continue this hearing on the record until March 20th, 2025, to commence immediately after the Board of Supervisors public meeting. That meeting begins at 6:30 PM. This evening, we were ready to commence the hearing at about 10 minutes before 7, so I would request that everyone be here on March 20th at about that time. Thank you.